011-03377. The South African Institute of Black Property Practitioners was formed in July 1996 and registered as a company under Section 21 of Companies Act of 1973 in May 1997. SAIBPP, as they call themselves, vision is to be a leader in the transformation of the property sector, ensuring that previously disadvantaged people play an active role in the property industry, especially black women and students whose studies are leaning towards the property industry. Now, joining us tonight is the CEO of SAIBPP. On this feature, Meet the Boss. Her name is Vuyiswa Mutshekwane. Vuyiswa describes herself as a serial entrepreneur and a strategist who has built a successful career in fashion retail, marketing and events. Did I miss something about property? She'll tell me. She's often referred to as a maverick and a pioneer in her field after being one of the first clothing boutique owners in what is now the trendy 70 Juta Braamfontein Design District, as well as more recently co-founding Joburg's first and most popular inner city branch event, the Weekend Social. I think it's WKND. Sounds like weekend, but she's going to tell me what that stands for. She's right here in studio, and most importantly, I want you to get ready because we're going to talk about transformation in the property industry. The role afforded and played by black players, the challenges that they meet, the obstacles that they meet, but most importantly for me, whether government is doing enough to give business to black property practitioners, because government is the biggest tenant you can ever find. Some of the people who make money out of these buildings that you see around have their tenant as that wonderful organization called government. But before then, let's get to know our guest. Good evening, Vuyiswa.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for coming through. It's an honor for us to have you here.
Thank you.
I did a bit of an intro about you, but that intro is the PR intro.
Yes.
When you have kingmakers around you, they write stuff like this. So when I want to do that, I normally would want you to tell us about yourself, just briefly. But what we are interested in really is where you were born, where you grew up, and a bit about your education. And you don't have to start at grade 1.
Okay, no, thank you for that.
Or start at sub A. You don't have to start there.
Thank you for that. Yeah. So thank you again for having me this evening. I have had quite an interesting story. I think as you read my bio, you'll see that my journey has been quite colorful. I began my journey, I studied economics and politics at UCT.
Mm-hmm.
I've always really I've always cared about, how the world works and about affecting people's lives in some way or another. I then had a 10-year career as an on-again, off-again entrepreneur in the fashion space, in the retail space, and again also in the events space, where, I think it's a very interesting space, creative space, and I learned a lot in that journey. I was heading up the African-born international brand Kisua, which many people will know of, and that was just before I started with the South African Institute of Black Property Practitioners. And to answer your earlier question, property is something that we should all and are all affected by, It's not limited to a single kind of career field. I think we all touch the property industry in one way or another. As it stands right now, we are inside a building, we are affected in some way by the property industry. And it's something that has always been of interest to me, and just to see my people, just to see the people of this country be better and have more opportunities is also a cause that's been very close to my heart for a long time.
Who is SAIBPP and why do we need a SAIBPP?
So SAIBPP, as you also said, has been around for 20 years. Since it's almost as old as our democracy, where we were born in 94, SAIBPP was born in 96. A direct response to the situation at hand at the time. The property industry is one of the key drivers, if I can say, of the economy. Just in terms of globally, 70% of wealth globally is held in real estate assets in some way or another, and similar to in South Africa. So it's one of the key economic engines of this country. And it was also one of the key areas that a lot of black people were excluded from participating historically in this country. So SAIBPP was created out of a need to address the imbalances in the commercial property industry. And since then, we evolved into a full-blown non-profit organization that runs a number of different programs around education, enterprise development, skills development, as well as advocacy and lobbying, which is a huge part of what we do.
Is that not primarily what you do?
That is primarily what we do, but as I said, we are also very much involved in the implementation.
Yeah.
I think what one finds with a lot of associations is that they tend to be complaining arenas, talk shops, transformation's not happening. What can be done about transformation? That is also, as an organization, the question that we seek to answer, and we seek to play an active role in being part of that solution.
Who constitutes SAIBPP? Are these property owners? Are these investors? And how many members do you have?
So currently we're sitting on a membership of plus minus 500. It's a combination of individual members and corporate members. And it covers the full spectrum of the property industry. So when we talk about property practitioners, we are referring to the entire value chain, not just owners. Ownership is only one aspect of the property industry, and I think this is also something that we aim to educate people about. There are so many opportunities to operate and to benefit from the industry. There's ownership, there's property management, there's facilities management, there's the financial side, there's brokering, conveyancing. There's many offshoots of this industry that where there are opportunities. Some of them, yes, involve ownership, but many don't. They are service related. So part of our objectives are to bring attention to the opportunities in the industry and to see more black people participate in the entire value chain.
That worries me though, because you want to see more black people participating, and I can imagine there's a lot of people involved in this space as black people. But then you mention only 500 members.
Interesting, yes, it's true. We are a professional association, and I think through forums like this, we are able to gain more awareness, and it's a growing membership, continuously growing membership. Unfortunately, also due to just the general lack of transformation in the industry, black people are not currently the kind of majority players in the industry. So yes, we only have 500, but that's also indicative of the number of people that are operating in the commercial property industry. So we hope to obviously gain awareness of the things that we're doing, draw more people into our membership so that we can better serve our members and better serve the needs of the property practitioners. But yeah, absolutely. If there were more black players, we would definitely have more members. So that's also part of our objectives, is to grow our membership.
Let's talk about the advocacy role and the lobbying role that you play. Who do you speak to mostly in that space? Is it? And I said, this is a layman speaking. I tend to think that I go around and I think government is a tenant everywhere, and I tend to think that they're a great client for anybody who is in the property space. But who are the people that you lobby and that you advocate? Not against, but that you speak to.
Who do we speak to? No,
who do you speak to?
Look, for obvious reasons, a huge part of our key stakeholders are government and a lot of the state-owned entities, just by sheer virtue of being the largest property and land owners and tenants. But it is also erroneous to say that it is solely government's job to transform. There is a huge problem in the private sector as well, where within the existing companies, we are not seeing, within the existing structures, we're not seeing, senior management black senior management coming into effect. We're not seeing that transfer happening as quickly as it should be. We're not seeing that skills transfer and that grooming of senior black management. But absolutely, key stakeholder is government. National government, obviously, their assets are managed by the Department of Public Works, and they are a very, very key stakeholder.
Multi-billion rand stakeholder.
Multi-billion. And I mean, we say if we could get all of these major stakeholders to synchronize their efforts to procure from black-owned companies, to make transformation truly top of the agenda, we would have huge impact. We would see huge impact. I mean, case in point, when government is leasing from a tenant, they are in a position to issue a long-term lease to a tenant that one can then take as a guarantee to a bank and say, look, I've got a 10-year lease. I've got a 10-year lease or a 40-year lease. Nothing's to stop you at 10 years. I've got a 40-year lease. So therefore, a bank is able to finance you and say, cool, I know you're going to be receiving revenue for the next 40 years. So therefore, I know that my bond will be paid in the next 7 years or 10 years. And so if we don't have the support from the tenant side, and one of the biggest tenants being government, it's very difficult to then get the support from the funding institutions or the finance side. But they too are a key stakeholder. The funding institutions themselves have a lot of reform that needs to be done there. It's not okay to also just carry on with the way things are. It is evident that transformation has stalled. It is evident that economic growth has stalled. And it is absolutely the responsibility of the major commercial banks and the funding institutions to relook how they are also approving and assessing, applications at a very basic level, to say, how are we also going to get behind transformation and what can be done to further that process? It
makes your job difficult, though, to be lobbying the financial institutions, the private sector financial institutions to transform when our very own development finance institutions are not even playing their part. I mean, it becomes a nightmare. I still sit here every day and people complain about NEF and they complain about IDC and they complain about all these government funding institutions that actually they're not necessarily doing much more for transformation than the other guys. Before you respond, I need to pay my clients. So I'm going to take a break and we come back and continue this conversation.
Sure thing.
Opportunity Tuesday on Metro FM Talk. Opportunity Tuesday on Metro FM Talk.
Does your school have a growth strategy that's in line with the trends of the 21st century? The digital education revolution may have its challenges, but we know the secret to African edtech success. Find the answers and discover solutions with SABC Education at the Digital Education Show Africa on the 18th and 19th of October at the Sandton Convention Center in Johannesburg. Register now to attend for free. Go to terrapin.com/Digital Ed Africa. This initiative is brought to you by SABC Education, Africa's largest EdTech exhibition. See you there.
Hey, yo, what up? Darvin Noy. Yo, check this out. We got your number.
Right away on 089-110-3377. And you can also tweet us at Rams by the Horns is the Twitter handle. And I'm going to give you her Twitter handle shortly. I know she's just tweeted now. What's your Twitter handle?
At VIEAREM, but also tweet SAIBPP at SAIBPP.
Okay, let's use here seems to be tricky. At SAIBPP, SAIBPP.
Correct.
You can tag them on your tweets. On Facebook, it's MetroFM Talk with Rams, and on email it's talk@metrofm.co.za. Any issues you want to raise around the property space insofar as transformation is concerned, you may very well be a player in the space and you may have your own frustrations, or you may want to tell us about how much you've seen transformation happening in this space. Talk to us. We're going to take your call 089-110-3377. But I asked you, Vuyiswa, before we took a break, if I were CEO of any of the 4 big banks and you came complaining to me, I would say you don't start with me. You guys must start with the development finance institutions who don't seem to be doing much better than the other guys.
Look, I mean, it's very easy to get into a finger-pointing exercise. The development finance institutions also have their own limitations that they're working with, you know. The NEF, as it stands right now, has a 2 billion rand pocket.
Yeah.
That's nothing. That's nothing, you know. If you're really interested in being a financial backing for the National Development Plan, 2 billion rand is not going to get you there. So they also, you know, are working with the constraints that they're working with. And it's not a single person's problem. And this is our position to say every single stakeholder has a role to play.
Yeah.
Government has a role to play in enabling, creating an enabling environment. But private sector absolutely has a role to play in implementation of that transformation.
Okay. I asked you this off air, and I'm going to ask it to the benefit of all our listeners. I personally, and I've known SAIBPP for a while, I've even been to 1 or 2 of your meetings and enjoyed free lunch or something. But I'm not hearing you enough. I'm not hearing the noise from SAIBPP. I'm not seeing your programs. And yes, maybe the programs are aimed internally, but I'm not seeing the advocacy. And I know there are so many one-man organizations out there. I'm not going to mention names, like I did off air, who are much more vocal. And some of them is just one guy and a Twitter handle and maybe an email address. But they're more vocal about the issues that they advocate for. Why are we not hearing enough from you? I worry about that because I think that's precisely what you should be doing, making enough noise, agitating.
Look, I mean, I think that's a two-part discussion. I suppose it depends what type of noise you'd like made. I think if you Google SAIBPP as it stands right now, you will find lots of noise that we have made in the media and so on. But I think the key thing for us is really, is it about noise making or is it about implementation? Is it about dealing with the actual problems or is it about making noise about them? And our focus, as it stands right now as SAIBPP, is to be solutions-orientated. We are 22 years into our democracy. We have been making noise about transformation and the lack thereof for 22 years.
Yeah.
As SAIBPP, we have done a lot in terms of from a policy perspective, in terms of driving this movement forward. The property charter, for example, would not exist without SAIBPP advocating and lobbying for that. That very 10-year lease policy that used to exist was as a result of SAIBPP lobbying for that and actually creating that policy and taking it to Public Works.
Yeah.
So we've done a lot. But now it's actually not time just for noise making. We are now looking forward to say we have 5 years to start implementing and to start seeing this transformation we've been talking about. And our focus is very much on that.
I hear you. Unfortunately, I don't take it. And I'll tell you why. I mean, I've been particularly impressed by the visibility of the organization and its leadership and the voice of the Black Management Forum, especially in the last year or two. I'm starting to feel that these guys are really championing the issues that they speak about. I see them. They raise issues. When a white CEO gets appointed, they question why is that the case. When something else is said somewhere else, they agitate, they make the noise. And I'm sure they like you do a lot of work behind the scenes beyond the noise. But remember, what you do behind the scenes, beyond the noise, is great. But from me as an observer, if I don't see your work, then you don't exist or you're not doing enough. I'm not feeling you.
Yeah.
And how do you then encourage other guys who should be working with you to feel, I should work with these guys? If I don't know SAIBPP, I'm not going to look at your website that you mentioned to me. I got to know that these guys, I know they are esteras out there.
Look, I hear you. And I take your commentary and your criticism, and I mean, I think at this point, it's subjective in that it depends what you in particular are consuming. We are as visible and we are as noisy as we have been able to be around the issues that we are, and we're very clear on the particular issues that we are advocating for. And as I said to you, it takes a simple Google search. You will see there's ample media, ample noise being made. But I do take your criticism or your comment, and I think that's something that we can address going forward.
In your view, or at least in your experience, maybe not a view, what are the two most critical challenges facing transformation in the property sector?
Well, I think definitely the two that the two key factors are policy, as we said. So it is absolutely government's responsibility to ensure that policy enables private sector to perform and to act.
Vuyiswa,
so, yes.
It's 2016. I'm sure we should have policy by now that's enabling.
Interesting, you would think. But interestingly enough, that is not the case. I'll give you case in point. We've discussed this 10-year lease policy. That policy was repealed, for example, and has to this day not been implemented once again. We have a BEE policy, triple BEE, that is very complicated and cumbersome and is moving at a snail's pace. It is a box-ticking exercise that every company is saying, okay, we are BEE compliant. But BEE compliance, it doesn't mean black-owned. It doesn't mean that there's a trickle-down effect. So there's definitely some additional and reviewing of policy that must be done. Absolutely, there was best thinking that was done 22 years ago, reviewed slightly. But at this point, we have to assess that we are 22 years in, and we are not seeing enough of the trickle-down effect, and we are not seeing the critical mass of black big business coming into effect. So we need to review that policy.
So policies is the number one issue. Before we go to number two.
Yes.
What keeps us alive as radio is the listeners.
Absolutely.
So I've invited them to speak to us. Let's take a call or two. I'll go back to challenge number 2. 089-110-3377. Our guest, Vuyiswa Mutshekwane, CEO of South African Institute of Black Property Practitioners. And she's right here in studio. We're taking your calls. We're taking your tweets. Let's talk. Vusi is calling us in Mpumalanga. Good evening, Vusi, and thank you for the call. Talk to us.
Yes, thanks for taking my call.
Yes, we're listening.
Yes, I've got a question here.
Your line is not the best, Vusi. We're battling to hear you. We're going to try and improve it. Please give us a second. We'll see if we can improve that line for you. 089-110-3377. At Rams by the Horns on Twitter. You can tag at SAIBPP, which is SAIBPP on Twitter. You can also write to us, MetroFM Talk with Rams on Facebook. We'd like to hear your views. Vuyiswa is here. She has assured me there is absolutely no question she cannot answer. Vusi, let's try again. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
We can hear you too. Go ahead, mate.
Okay, I just have a question for the lady there from SAIBPP. I'm working here in Mpumalanga, and I've seen there's a growth in property and everything for Eskom. They hire out for contractors and everything. Yeah. But for a person like me now, who doesn't have capital and everything, but who's thought about these kind of things, what can SAIBPP do for me? Okay.
Great stuff. Please listen to the radio, mate. We shall respond to that. I will put a gun to her head to respond. Max in Cape Town. No. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, we're listening, mate. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Stanley Machilo from Bono Street.
Oh, I got the wrong. Okay, continue.
Yeah. I might not be the most relevant caller tonight, but I believe there is a few things that Mrs. Vuyela might be able to assist with. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Mrs. Vuyela spoke something about enterprise development. And as well, I was listening to the show earlier
when I spoke to Standard Bank about enterprise development.
Yeah, that was quite a relief for us. As myself, I'm a small business owner. I run a landscaping company. So I have recently started the company, and the situations that I'm facing, the challenges that I'm facing are similar to those of other small enterprises, which is no recognition from any funding institutions because of our short track record or either weak financial statements.
Yes. So how can we help you?
Yeah, right. I'd like to take advantage of people who talk about practical development and transformation. There was a mantra which she chanted throughout. She said transformation, correct? So as her in property, I come to a person like her and tell her, listen, I'm doing this. How much can you assist me as much as getting jobs? So myself as a small enterprise can, take advantage of the small opportunities that we get.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tembile. Thank you very much. I hope that Vuyiswa understood you like I think I understood you, but if we didn't, we'll try and make sense of it. I'm going to take 2 more calls and then we'll respond to all of them. I did threaten earlier that I'm going to speak to Max in Cape Town. Good evening, mate.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Good evening, sir.
We're all ears, Max.
Yes. I just want a suggestion from your guest there. I've got a son who's doing grade 12, and he has applied towards studying property studies at UCT. And what I would like to know from your guest is because he's also interested in doing law, which one can she suggest that he does first? That is that the LLB? Then later on, maybe do the conveyancing, or can he just go straight to the property studies? Then maybe within the property studies, specialize with the legal part of it. What can she suggest?
We will find out, and we will also try to find out which one of them is decolonized. Max, thank you very much for the call. Spey is in Devon. Good evening.
Hey, how are you, my man?
Dark and lovely, mate. How are you?
Yes, man. It's a very, very interesting topic, like I said, I just want to ask from our guests what the policy or what they are going to do, because I've seen a lot of development in our government is building the massive malls in the rural areas and in the township. So, and I think those malls, they doesn't owned by the black people or the black community. So what are the policies that they are going to assist us as a local people to benefit from those malls or from those properties?
Okay. Thank you very much for the call. Listen on the radio. Let's start at the top, Vuyiswa.
Yeah, so I actually think your first 2 callers touched on a similar theme.
Yeah,
which
capital and enterprise development. Yeah?
Yes, correct. Which goes back to the topic we discussed about funding institutions and how that is the second biggest stakeholder in ensuring this transformation. And I think your callers have hit the nail on the head. You can find a great opportunity. Maybe you find a piece of land, or you have a development idea, a business idea, whatever that may be. But you walk into a bank, or you walk into even a DFI sometimes, and you are asked, how many years of track record do you have? Or, better
do you have a tender?
What collateral
I've been asked that question before by a DFI.
Yeah, what collateral do you have? Do you have a guarantee? And this is where we are saying government, local and national, as well as the SOEs, can play a major role. They can be that guarantee. So if you are a developer and you say, I'm going to develop, or I want to, or ESCOM themselves, your caller made the comment about ESCOM. ESCOM themselves have the ability to put out opportunities, but also support and facilitate the take-up of those opportunities by, for example, granting those leases or supplying the land, for example, at a favorable rate. You know, in terms of the SOEs, Transnet, biggest landowner, then AXA, then Eskom, then we've got, as I said, Public Works, huge one, and then the municipalities. They alone already have it in their reach to be able to facilitate access to finance. But with that said, it is also important to start having those conversations now with the funding institutions, with the financial houses to say, since 1960-something, what has changed in how we assess creditworthiness? I've heard very interesting examples of how, you know, when the actual credit assessment is done, people are looking, they actually even look at your address. When you say, hi, I'm Jabu, I have this business plan, and your address says Soweto there, you're already assumed to be more risky. You know? I've heard of,
and same with insurance, the same with everything.
Correct. Our members are bringing this information to us, and with this information, we are now empowered to actually speak to the funding institutions and put pressure on them to make the necessary changes. It's not going to happen overnight. That's the reality. But the discussions need to start happening, and we need to start having, as you've said, more visible, more robust discussions with these institutions and move forward.
So if Jabu came with that kind of case, do you take those individual cases and address them and go to a funder or somebody and say, we have a problem. You guys are not talking to this guy and we think he's legit?
Realistically, it's just not possible to take every single case every day to our stakeholders. As a industry association, we are there to represent the needs of the industry as best as possible. Of course, there will be specific cases that are brought to us, but again, overarchingly, we are finding it's the same issues. It's the same issues, just different cases of the same issues. And we believe, and we are working towards right now, dealing with those macro issues. We need to deal with policy. We need to deal with what's happening in the funding institutions. We need to deal with what's happening in education. To your third caller's point, we need to deal with the fact that, the students, are they even studying property studies? Is there awareness around this industry? We need to deal with the problem from the bottom to the top. We need to deal with what's happening in private sector, because even within the major companies in private sector, if we don't have black senior executive management, we are not going to see those companies even procuring from black-owned companies. It's a trickle-down effect. So, again, to reiterate the point, it's not about one single stakeholder. It is about everybody coming to the party, and it is a huge task that we have on our hands at this stage.
What should Marx's son study?
Marx's son should do what he's good at. But obviously I'm a little bit biased. I do believe that the future of wealth creation lies in property and real estate. So, but with that said, a law degree is a good basis for anything. He can then do postgraduate studies in property studies if it's still something that he'd like to specialize in. I would say that. But however, I do encourage people to study property studies.
As long as it's decolonized. Let me expand Spare's question, because he asked about malls in rural areas and in the townships. Where he got it wrong is that government is building this, is actually not government. However, I think he makes a very valid point. I'll take example. If you go to Soweto, there's two big malls. My problem, though, and I'm not even talking about the retailers, because we don't own retail shops. I can live with that, as the anchor tenants. But I go to the toilets, and everything else still shows me the big companies' names that I see when I'm in Sandton, and I see them when I'm in Cape Town, when I see them wherever else. And I'm thinking, if you're going to build a mall in Soweto, shouldn't at least the toilet paper contract go to a supplier in Soweto? Shouldn't the cleaning company be a supplier from Soweto? At which point do we at least say to these guys, yes, come and do business, but let's give others a chance who are in this space, who are actually your market.
The reality is nobody's going to give anybody a chance. We come from a system where we have political power, but we don't have economic power. This has become evident. And where we are right now is that, we can see the current climate in the country tells us that people have run out of patience. So at this point, it's no longer about talking about being given opportunities. Nobody's going to give anybody opportunities. We have to come with practical solutions. We have to come with those solutions, and we have to implement those solutions. We cannot be talking about whether the mall is in Soweto or Rustenburg or the waterfront. You still need the capital. You still need to fund the development.
Yeah.
You still need to have the relationship with the retailers so that they can come on as anchor tenants. And unfortunately, this is one big monopoly value chain that needs to be disrupted. But for that to happen, we need to arrive with some very disruptive, very revolutionary solutions. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to come up with those solutions, but what I am saying is that we need to start instigating those conversations and having the right people around the table to come with those solutions.
Isn't that an opportunity, Vuyiswa? Lying right there for SAIBPP to take up and say, we're going to be the disruptors here.
This is what we're doing. This is what we are doing.
I think some guy called Mutshekwane Dlamini has done more disruption, sometimes not too good, than you guys have. and I think that yours is an even more lucrative space where the disruption will not go on for too long before guys hear what you're saying.
Look, again, over the past year, we have done a significant amount of work relating to implementation. So as I said, we have physical programs that we're running. We have bursary programs. We are putting children through school.
Yeah.
We have mentorship programs where we are connecting young people to industry leaders to get that skills transfer happening.
Yeah.
Now, look, that may not be your
idea. No, it's good. I love it.
You see what I'm saying? So we are looking at the industry. We're saying, what are the problems in the industry? And how can we be part of that solution?
But I
not
also,
just noise making.
I'll tell you what, and I mentioned, a clear example. It's not even I'm not giving. It's not. What do they call those things? It's not just a loose example. I'm talking about a real person. As much as you helping the kids to get an education and to link people with those people and lobbying for that manager to also be promoted.
Yes.
There's also Tiani, who comes from Polokwane, who owns a toilet paper making business. He does amazing work. We've spoken to him here on the show. And I'd like to find an opportunity where that guy is also given an opportunity to supply in a big Polokwane mall or another mall with the help of an organization of your caliber and your stature.
We completely agree. And enterprise development, as we've said, is a very, very key focus because that's where that comes in, where we look at the entire value chain and we say, okay, either government or major private landlord, let us have a practical discussion about procurement. We, as it stands right now, we are in the process of developing a black-owned companies supplier database. So that will sit. That's something that we have actually spent the time this year developing. We've gone out, we've gotten it funded, and this will enable black business owners within the property space and its value chain to submit their company profiles, and for us to then directly link them with our stakeholders to say, if we have a key stakeholder that says, we're always looking for black developers, but we can't find them. We now as SAIBPP are saying, here's the solution.
On Twitter, Tabza asks, does SAIBPP mentor potential black property owners who want to enter into leasing industry?
So we have a mentorship platform that we have created called Meet the Leader, and this allows when people are able to attend this event, and we have several of them throughout the year where we bring together the top leaders in the industry with young people, startups and entrepreneurs who are looking to be mentored. As SAIBPP said, we are there to bring the industry together and to facilitate these relationships. So we do have a mentorship platform, but you can't come to the SAIBPP office and be mentored, to answer the question.
Okay, I'm going to conclude with a few tweets here, and one of them I tend to suspect that you probably have paid for this one.
Really?
Where was it? It was saying wonderful words about you. I'll find it, but let me read the others that just came through.
Why aren't you finding that one? I think there's some sabotage here.
ED specialist says we need to find ways to help SMEs gain access into various markets and form part of the broader supply chain. South Africa's approach to SME development needs to go beyond providing funding and early stage mentorship. That's ED specialist again. And now this one speaks about something else. You've answered the last question. Oh, here we go. IG Hamatabani 1 says black business. No. There's something where he praises. He says, hey Rams, Ms. Vuyiswa Mutshekwane and Mrs. Xoliswa Tini, one of the forces to be reckoned with in the property industry. This is paid for. Vuyiswa,
thank you.
Wonderful chatting to you. I think we're not done.
We are definitely not done.
I think we're not done. I feel we have not touched on the issues that we need to touch. I think you guys got bulldog opportunities, but playing with Chihuahua status. And we gotta talk about this. This industry is very important. It's a 1.3 trillion rand business.
Hey, 6 trillion.
Whatever it is,
industry, huge.
Really,
yeah.
I really think that we need to do more. And I have not done this before, but we may have to do this part 2.
I'm looking for
we got to do part 2 with this one.
I'm looking forward to that.
We couldn't even take more calls. I couldn't do more about it. But she was our guest on Meet the Boss, Vuyiswa Mutshekwane, and is the CEO of the South African Institute of Black Property Practitioners. Thank you very much for your time, and all the best to SAIBPP.
Thank you.
Now I know you. Now I'll go to your website. That concludes Opportunity Tuesday and certainly concludes my time on radio this week. We're back, same time, same place, next Monday, 7:30 to 9 p.m. Up next is Ismail Abrahams. And thank you very much to the team. From me, Rams Mabote. Good night and God bless.
Hey, yo, what up? Johannesburg. Yo, check this out. We got your number.
We are proud to present
96.4
Metro FM.
Metro FM.